Hi everyone, it's Sonia here. How's it going? Now I have to choose my words very carefully here because it's YouTube. There has been this movement that contains a certain letter of the alphabet, which has been sort of encouraging people to believe that everything is fine and to trust the plan. And it turns out that actually this mirrors pretty much identically a psyop that was used by the communists back in the 1920s. And personally, I've always felt that this thing that was going on was a psyop. This is why I never got into their topics. I never discussed it. I never really touched on it, never went for it. And I had people messaging me and calling me and telling me about all this secret intel that was being released. And I just never bought it. I smelled psyop from the beginning. And I was like, there's something wrong with this. There was a lot I could say about it. But I'm going to show you this document. You've got to see it. We're going to look at this together, read it. You're going to see. I mean, it's such a perfect mirror image of this Russian counterintelligence operation that it would be a big coincidence if that was just random. I don't think it is. Before I get into that, I do want to tell you about my favorite C60 EVO ESS 60 in olive oil, which it's my favorite supplement. It is a very powerful antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It's especially helped me with my sleep. I've been able to get restful sleep with this stuff. Helps me increase my energy during the day. I feel like it's really helped me overall feel better. So I want to let you know about this. And if you use my coupon code to order through the link, you get an extra $15 off. Also, I want to thank you for supporting my channel on Patreon, which does help keep my channel going. And if you join my Patreon for as little as $1, you will be notified by me personally every time I upload, every time I do a live chat. And also you'll get more backstory and extra info on there. So thank you for joining my Patreon. So, okay, here is the thing. Here's the document. By Golitsyn Anatol, The New Lies for Old Ones. So this was brought to my attention on Information Liberation. And I'm going to give you the link, so go check it out because there'll be extra things there. But let's just look at this. So Operation Trust was a Bolshevik counterintelligence operation run from 1921 to 1926 aimed at neutralizing opposition by creating the false impression that a powerful group of military leaders had organized to stop the communist takeover. Sound familiar? Operation Trust. Wow. Here's an excerpt from it, and the thing is, if you're reading this, you're going to notice that the similarities with Operation Trust and Trust the Plan are remarkable. So it says here, these innocent persons could then be used by the regime in various ways. They could act as channels for disinformation. These are innocent people, like just people who can get drawn into this. They could be blackmailed and recruited as agents. They could be arrested and given public trials. A characteristic but not unique example of this technique is provided by the so-called Trust Operation. In 1921, as the NEP was being launched, the OCPU created inside Soviet Russia a false anti-Soviet organization, the Monarchist Alliance of Central Russia. It had once been a genuine organization founded by Tsarist generals in Moscow and Leningrad, but liquidated by the Soviet Security Service in 1919 to 1920. Former members of this organization, among them Tsarist generals and members of the old aristocracy who had come over to the Soviet side, nominally led the movement. Their new loyalty to the Soviet regime was not in doubt, for they had betrayed their former friends in the anti-communist underground. Agents of the Trust traveled abroad and established confidential contacts and genuine anti-communist emigre leaders in order, ostensibly, to coordinate activity against the Soviet regime. These agents confided in their contacts that the anti-Soviet monarchist movement that they represented was now well established in Soviet Russia had penetrated into the higher levels of the army, the security service, and even the government, and would in time take power and restore the monarchy. Sound familiar? Had penetrated into the higher levels of the army, the security service, and even the government. Right, like everything's okay, you know? They convinced the emigre leaders that the regime had undergone a radical change. Communism had completely failed. Ideology was dead. The present leaders had nothing in common with the fanatical revolutionaries of the past. They were nationalists at heart, and their regime was evolving into a moderate national regime and might soon collapse. The NEP should be seen as the first important concession on the road to restoring capitalism in Russia. Soon political concessions would follow. Because of this, said the trust agents, any intervention or gesture of hostility from the European powers or the emigre movement would be ill-advised, if not tragic, since it would only unite the Russian people around their government and so extend its survival. The European governments and the emigre leaders should put a stop to anti-Soviet terrorist activities and change their attitude from hostility toward the Soviet regime to one of passive acceptance. Now, I don't see the current situation recommending passive acceptance from the people who oppose, but there is this narrative that, like it says here, members in the military, security service, and the government are working together to basically restore the monarchy, in this case, the constitutional republic. And so that you need to just trust this, that everything is actually going to be okay. Naturally, there were doubters among the emigres, but the prestige of the leaders of the organization, particularly of General Brusilov, convinced the majority. They accepted at face value the trust's disinformation and passed it on to their influential friends in the European intelligence services. See, I've seen some of those videos where you're advised to trust the plan, and it is telling you that despite how everything looks on the surface, behind the scenes, all these strings are being pulled so that you're going to get actually what you want. You know, the party that you oppose is going to be defeated, and you know, it's like as if they're telling you, don't worry, there's a conspiracy against the conspiracy. So relax, everything's going to be fine. And okay, I'll get into a little bit about also other reasons why I suspected it was a psyop from the beginning. It operated on the premise that info had been dumped into online forums from high-level members of the military or the national security and things like that. I've been around a long time. And I remember when there was real information leaking out. It was being done through things like WikiLeaks. It was getting hacked and then leaked. And what happened to Julian Assange, who was behind that? He was holed up in an Ecuadorian embassy for 7 or 8 years. It didn't go well for him. They were demanding extradition to the US, which recently I heard was denied. Basically, he had nowhere to go. He was a wanted man. The US wanted him on their soil and to keep him in jail for the rest of his life. And even just seeking refuge in that Ecuadorian embassy, he had many very rough years. I mean, basically this person has been almost completely destroyed. That's what happens when people leak stuff. If they're powerful enough to give important leaks, there's an all-out mission to destroy them. So a few months ago, there was news that the owner of one of these forums, his identity had been revealed. But so what happened to him? Really nothing, you know? And they did shut some of these forums down, but were there ever any like investigations? But where did these top secret documents, where did all this info come from? Was anyone held accountable? Even when the identity was revealed? No, nothing. If it had been real information, I don't think it would have gone that way, and I don't think it would have ended up on an online forum where it's really easy to fake things. And then I noticed that a lot of the info that was coming out there is stuff that's been around this whole time. I've been around so long. I remember 10, 12 years ago when you could actually find pretty much anything you wanted on the internet. And all the stuff that's in there, it's stuff that was already there, that was, you didn't need to info dump it. We used to be able to just Google it. All of that stuff. It was all there. We've all seen it. Us old timers, we've seen all of those things. And then on top, I'm not going to go into detail because you guys know how it is these days, but all those things that were supposedly dumped, not the ones concerning recent events, but those like general topics that keep coming up, stuff related to that have been around a long time. We've seen that and worse. And then what happened was, it was like using those things as a starting point. I mean, you guys, Ted Gunderson, Boys Town, what was her name? Nancy Schaefer. Those were real whistleblowers. Their information was easily accessible these days. I mean, back then. These days, that kind of stuff gets covered up all the time. And those other, like, and I'm trying to be really careful here with how I use my words. Those very, very dark areas, that stuff was talked about years ago. I had a radio show. I interviewed people who had claimed to have been victims or had been involved, you know, as victims. This goes way back. The case of the man from Belgium who was finally arrested. That was, you know, easy to find. The case with the tunnel that led to right underneath the church, with the girl like showed where the tunnel was, and then they went and it came up right underneath the church. Like, and I'm not giving you the details, but those things were all available to us. Documents from every agency you can imagine, lots of stuff. It was all there. So what I noticed was, it's like they keep telling you like you're getting something really great, but you're getting like a rehash of stuff that we already saw. Plus, there's extra stuff added to it, and stuff taken from movies thrown in, and tons of disinformation, stuff that I'd already looked into years ago that I could easily debunk. Obviously, full of misinformation. What else could it be but a psyop? So it's got you focused on all that stuff, which is full of misinfo, telling you like this is the evil that's being done in the world. And some of it's true, and some of it's totally mixed up. And at the same time telling you, but don't worry, trust the plan, because there's people behind the scenes, everything's going to be fine. And that's where this comes in. So, I mean, it's like a counterintelligence operation, because, you know, they had another one for the other side. I told you all about Momentum, and their goal was to polarize people, and they said that they were looking to create chaos and violence and to polarize people. That was the goal for the stuff that happened earlier. So that was for the other side. And then for this side, they took a lot of the stuff that had been around, that people had been talking about 10, 12 years ago, sort of remixed it, threw in a bunch of junk, convinced you that it was coming from some secret sources, and then told you also, like, you know, yeah, but everything's going to be fine. So this was like a counterintelligence operation. But within it, it was psyop upon psyop. Lies about how things were going to turn out, and also a bunch of bull about stuff that was going on, that there was really stuff going on, but they threw in so much garbage in there that it makes the whole thing look ridiculous, which is exactly what they did with everything we ever talked about. If you know what I'm talking about, good for you, because that's about as clearly as I can say it here. You're going to have to figure out what I'm talking about. I think a lot of you guys who've been here with me for a long time, you old schoolers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So another thing about this, the alphabet people, was that oddly, apparently they were endorsing regime change in Iran. Something no honest truther would ever do. Oh, endorsing the war. We started off as an anti-war movement. See, that's the kind of thing that would tip me off, because we all started as an anti-war movement. All started about that. And that was a really big turning point, and it was important. So when you see people demanding regime change, something's not right. promoting the rendition of Edward Snowden, negotiating for return traitor, mission to harm NSA. Oh, really? Wants to tarnish the reputation of a government agency. So, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And trust sessions. Trust sessions. Yeah, Operation Trust, right? So it would make sense that there were trust sessions. Actually, what I'm seeing here is like the current operation, large scale, like global operation, is taking all the best from the playbooks of all the regimes that have happened in the past that were able to achieve complete control. Because you can think of a few of them, like we mentioned Russia here, but there have been others, which I won't mention. You know what they are. People talk about them all the time. And it's like these guys, studied this, and they learned so much from previous dictators. And they don't have to just take one playbook. They can take from this one, and they can take from the other one too. Two completely, supposedly opposite sides of the coin. Because you can have dictatorial regimes that lean one side politically or the other side completely. You can take all the best of both worlds of propaganda, psyops, manipulating the public. You can take all of that, put it into one big pot, make a great witch's brew of psyops, I mean, why limit yourself? You do whatever works. And as far as I can tell, you're not going to find them if you're looking all the way on the right. You're not going to find them if you're looking all the way on the left. This is something new. This is the Great Reset. They're all set up. And they're taking all the best from all the playbooks. No holds barred. That's what I'm seeing. From Wikipedia's article on Operation Trust. Operation Trust was a counterintelligence operation of the State Political Directorate of the Soviet Union. The operation, which was set up by the State Political Directorate, which is called GPU, predecessor Cheka, ran from 1921 to 26, set up a fake anti-Bolshevik resistance organization. Now, this doesn't mean that the people who follow it or join it are not truly anti-Bolshevik. They may very well be, absolutely they are. I mean, there could be a few people who come in there on purpose to, mislead them some more. But most people join it genuinely and believe that they're joined to the thing that matches up with the cause they want to support. Except that they're being tricked. And they can be then herded. Herded wherever the orchestrators want them to go. The one Western historian who had limited access to the trust files, John Costello, reported that they comprised 37 volumes and were such a bewildering welter of double agents and interlocking deception operations with the complexity of a symphonic score that Russian historians from the intelligence service had difficulty separating fact from fantasy. I believe it. As they point out, it sounds like the Confucius-style nonsense put out by that certain group. So go check out the link, because there's more there. But I think that they really hit the nail on the head. I think this is definitely what's going on. And I'm not blaming the people that have gotten involved, like just through the internet. Or somebody said, well, what are you saying? People are stupid? No, absolutely not. The people who do these kind of operations are very, very skilled at what they do. They're professionals. That's what they do. It's like, when you go to a show where there's a hypnotist or one of these people that can manipulate the crowd, it's not because people are stupid. It's because that's what those people do. They're experts at this. So it's natural that it would work, because if it didn't, those people would be out of a job and they wouldn't bother doing this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. They're really good at it. And even if you feel like you're astute and you know when something's not right in the media, which I'm sure you do, it is possible, if we're not very careful, to still get sucked into psyops. I'm always on the lookout for these things, and there's so many times where I see psyop where other people just don't, people close to me included. But I guess it's because I've been around for a long time, and I've seen the patterns, and I know what they're up to. And they had declared it themselves at the very beginning, 10 years ago. They said they were going to mess with people. So it's not because people are stupid. Like I said, it's because this is what they do. They know how to manipulate people. Even well-meaning people will get sucked into this. So please be careful, because there's a lot of this stuff about. Anyway, I hope that's useful for you. Unfortunately, it really seems like people have, fallen into this, and this has furthered the agenda of the people who created these operations, and actually turned out very, very beneficial to them. So, yeah, it's been a rough year. It's been a rough day too. It's been rough, man. Anyway, like, what can you do? Get through today, Just deal with the day you have in front of you, because who knows where this is going. I still hold out hope that somehow they're not going to have their reset the way they want it, because it's not something that I want to live in, But we're not there yet. Maybe it's just another run and it won't be the real thing for another 10 years. So, don't give up hope. We might have another 10 good years before we end up in this nightmare permanently. Anyhow, I hope that information was useful to you. Thanks again for supporting my channel on Patreon. Don't forget to check out the link for this, which, if you do try it, please leave me a comment below so I can know how it's gone for you. And with the link, you'll receive a discount, so check it out. God bless you guys, and thanks for joining me in the chat, if I did one. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.